Morning, y'all. Today we're gonna pick some bok choy from the garden. I noticed a lot of it was starting to bolt since we've had some pretty hot weather the last couple days. We had a little cold front that came through, so hopefully it slowed it down a little bit, but I gotta cut these heads of bok choy that are bolting or else they'll get pretty bitter. So let's go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna cook some up for Christmas dinner. All right, I'm already in the garden, so let's make our way over to where all the bok choys are. They're not all bolting, so I'll leave the ones that are fine. But you can tell when they're bolting when they have like a little flower in the middle. It looks like almost like a little broccoli. Let's see if I can find one. These are all good. There's a little one right in there. I can probably leave that for a little bit longer. I mean, they look like bouquets. They're so beautiful. I can't believe I grew them. All right, I think it's probably the second planting over here. See, here you can see there's the flowers right in the middle. All right, so last night I was doing some research on how to harvest your greens and, you know, how much of the leaves you can take of the broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage, and, you know, how to process those so we can save them and have them in the summertime, you know, while we're still waiting for the spring garden to grow. And he had his collards and stuff, you know, they take up so much space. I'm like, they're not gonna fit in my basket. How am I gonna carry them into the house? And he used a laundry basket. So I grabbed one of my kids and cleaned it out and stuff, wiped it out, and I'm just gonna use that. And then you can just hose it right out, let it dry, and just use it over again. So I'm gonna buy myself one just for this purpose, but I thought that was genius. A laundry basket. All right, so when you wanna harvest the whole head, normally like as you wanna use it, you can just pull the leaves off like I've been doing. But when it does this, the plant is done. It wants to go to seed. So if you just go down to the base, just go below the bottom leaves and just cut that little stem off right there like that. So then you just harvested this whole bouquet of greens. All right, let's find our next one. I think those ones are okay. Oh, one right here. All right, this nice big one. So just gently. I don't think I've harvested from this one yet. So just cut right underneath. Just like that. I'll put that in my laundry basket. Just like that. See, I mean, two of them almost fills that. All right, so let's find another one. I don't think there's too many. I got most of them the other day. I knew there was at least 3. See, here's another one. Right there in the center, it's starting to go. And there's another little one right next to it. So I'll probably go ahead and plant another seeding of the bok choy because this has been really super easy to grow. And we've all enjoyed eating it, even the kids. So my daughter Everlyn said that this is her favorite of all of the greens. So I'll get these little icky ones off and I'll give them to my chickens. We can eat the rest. They'll love their little treat. I think that's all I need to get, actually. Some of my tomatoes are starting to ripen. I got my first tomatoes the other day, and I have my first little head of broccoli. I'll show you real quick. I'm really excited. There she is, right in there in the center. It's little, but it's kind of nice to see it starting. So then the chickens will enjoy their little snack. All right, we're gonna go inside and cook these up now. All right, now that I have the bok choy in the house, what I'm gonna do is separate the leaves. And the ones like this, I'm not gonna keep. I'm just gonna go give those to the chickens. So what I do is I just take them apart from the stem, they just peel right off into one part of my sink. And just twist off that top part that's got the flour on it. But you can eat the flowers, they're edible and very tasty. So what I do is I just rinse them and put them into this side of my sink, and I'm gonna have this filled with water. And what you wanna do is let them soak for a little while, and it helps them become a little more tender. So I like to do this ahead of time. Right after I pick it, I bring it inside and I rinse it. Just any dirt or anything, you know, we don't do any pesticides, it's all organic, so I don't need to do that. I'm just trying to get some of the dirt And maybe sometimes the fertilizer collects right there on the bottom. You just want to rinse all that off. Check for any bad spots as you do it and any bugs. I haven't had any bugs on mine yet, so, but just in case, you never know. And sometimes the dirt will get under there after it rains. So I just do this to all of them, and then I'll fill this whole sink up over here. It'll probably fill up the whole sink, and then I'll just fill it with water and let it soak for about an hour. And then what I'll do, since I'm not ready to cook it yet, I'm gonna get a big bath towel, a nice big clean bath towel, and I'm gonna wrap them all up in that and tuck them in my fridge. And they'll last even for a few days like that. I have some in the fridge that we're gonna add to this and cook it all up at the same time. So when I get to that part to cook it, I'll bring you back and show you how I do it. All right, well, I decided to give these scraps to the pigs instead. Figured they might be able to chew the stem ends a little bit better. They sure have been enjoying this paddock that we made for them. They've been tearing it up and rooting around and running around and having a good old time. So I just put it in their little feed bucket. And they just love that. Happy meat tastes good. We've always raised Yorkshire hogs before, not this round, but the previous round we had 2 Durocs. And let me tell you, the meat just tastes so much better. I mean, the Yorkshire meat was better than anything you'd buy in the grocery store, but this Duroc meat, it's just, it's definitely, you can taste the difference. So this is our breed from now on, I believe. Looks like they're enjoying that. All right, guys, now it's time to get started cooking up this bok choy. So this is what I picked last week, the heads that were bolting of the bok choy. And I just washed them in the sink and wrapped them up into this bath towel and put it in my crisper drawer. And it's like I just picked it. It's nice and fresh and crisp still. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to chop off these ends. These are kind of like celery. And I'm going to cook those down a little bit first because they take a little bit longer to get soft. So I'm going to cook those in this skillet pan right here. And I'm going to cook them with some garlic and some olive oil and some salt. And then we'll cook these down a little bit until it's time to add the greens. And then put the greens on top. And they cook down quite a bit faster, since they're not as fibrous. And then you can season them with some salt and pepper if you like. We don't enjoy pepper, so I usually only do salt. And then if you add a little bit of balsamic vinegar at the end, it helps cut the bitterness a little bit if there is any in your bok choy. I haven't had any of my bok choy that has been bitter. Most of it's tasted just like regular, Chinese cabbage. And it gives it like a nice little flavor to it. And that's all I do to my bok choy. And it comes out really good and tasty and not like the real, strong flavor. But if you want, like if you're doing it like with an Asian theme, we're just going to have this with our Christmas dinner. So I'm just doing it as a green side. If you want to make it an Asian side, you can add in some toasted sesame oil. That's really good. I've done that before with some chicken. And maybe a little bit of soy sauce, but I'm not going to do that this time. But I have another whole towel full of bok choy that I picked yesterday and showed you guys how I pick it and how it looks when it's bolting and stuff. So I'll cook that up another time, or maybe I'll throw some of the greens into the dehydrator and show you how you can make your own greens powder. You can add it to all different kinds of foods, and if you have protein shakes or anything, you can add it to there for some extra nutrition. You can put it in casseroles and soups just to, or sauces to boost the nutritional value of your foods. And if you have picky eaters that don't like greens, that's a really good way to get some healthy greens into their diet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping up the rest of these ends, and I'll bring you back when I'm ready to saute them. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start stir frying this part. I just put about maybe 1 tablespoon of olive oil in here. We'll season it with a little bit of salt. And I have my burner on high right now until it heats up. And then when everything kind of starts sizzling, then I'll turn it down a little bit and do it nice and slow. All right, so we're just gonna cook this down a little bit and then we'll add in the seasonings and the greens. All right, this has been cooking for just a few minutes. It doesn't really take long to do this. I've just stirred it a few times just to move it around the pan. And it's starting to release a little bit of juices there, so that will help it finish steaming. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in the garlic. Just nice big heaping amount. That's probably 3 teaspoons, so maybe 3 cloves of garlic if you're using fresh. Or if you don't have fresh or minced like this, you can just use some garlic powder. Which, and if I had thought ahead of time, I would have had some onions out from the freezer. But I'm just going to go ahead and put some granulated onion on top just for a little seasoning. Usually I would have cooked some of my frozen chopped up onion slices that I have. So this will be fine. Then I'm going to go ahead and start adding the greens. Just a big handful at a time and they'll cook down. Lost soldier over there. Add a little bit more. I'm going to do another little drizzle of olive oil just to kind of coat these leaves. That's probably just about a teaspoon, not much. And we'll do a little bit of salt. Just want to make sure these leaves get all the way on the bottom so they get exposed to some of the heat from the pan and the juices. All right, and I'll put the last little bit of greens. All right, and that's it. I think I'll pop the lid on and let it steam a little bit, but before I do that, I'm going to do my little secret ingredient, a little bit of balsamic vinegar. I'm just going to maybe do 1 little cap. You don't want much of it because then it will give it too much flavor. Just a little capful of it, so that's probably maybe half a teaspoon. And stir that in. And I'll put the lid on and finish cooking it, but this is about it. It's just about finished. Super quick, super fast. Lots of vitamins and nutrients and minerals in this. Alright, so I'm just going to pop the lid on for a few minutes and then it will be good to go. I'm going to turn my heat down to low also. Alright, so that is how I cook my greens.